Core Strengths 1. Narrative as Philosophy. You masterfully use storytelling as the vehicle for philosophical inquiry. The journey from the prison cell back through Socrates' life makes abstract ideas, justice, piety, courage, visceral and urgent. 2. Historical synthesis. You seamlessly integrate the personal biography of Socrates with the grand political and intellectual history of Athens, the Persian Wars, the Golden Age, the Peloponnesian War, the tyranny of the 30. This shows how his life and death were inextricably bound to the city's triumphs and traumas. 3. The central paradox, perfectly articulated. Your framing of Athens, the birthplace of democracy and philosophy, murdering its greatest philosopher, is the central haunting tragedy of Western political thought. You explore this not as a contradiction, but as a dark potential within democracy itself. 4. Vivid cinematic detail. The descriptions are immersive: the flickering oil lamp in the cell, the marble dust on young Socrates' hands, the specific weight of the bronze voting discs, the numbness creeping upward from the feet. This grounds the intellectual drama in human reality. 5. Thematic echoes. You brilliantly connect threads across the narrative. The divine sign, daimonion, of Socrates is mirrored in the modern individual conscience. The gadfly metaphor becomes a timeless symbol. The questions asked in the Agora are the same ones asked in Enlightenment salons and modern courtrooms. Profound themes explored. Democracy's shadow self. You expose the terrifying truth that the demos, people, when fearful, humiliated, and in search of a scapegoat, can become a tyrannical mob. The vote was close, 280 to 221, highlighting that the tragedy was not inevitable, but a choice made by a wounded society. The danger of the examined life. Socrates' method is shown not as a benign intellectual exercise, but as a socially revolutionary and dangerous act. To teach people to think for themselves is to make them ungovernable by traditional means. This explains the real, non-fictional charges behind the formal accusations. The corruption of ideas. The arcs of Alcibiades and Critias are tragic case studies. They learned Socrates' tools of questioning and deconstruction, but divorced them from his relentless pursuit of virtue. This provided his enemies with their most potent ammunition. His students' crimes became his indictment. The martyrdom as apotheosis. You brilliantly chart the immediate and eternal aftermath. The accusers are hounded. Athens feels instant regret. Plato builds the academy. Socrates dead becomes infinitely more powerful than Socrates alive, an immortal symbol of the conscience that power cannot silence. The unbroken chain of legacy. Your concluding section powerfully traces the Socratic thread through history. Roman law, the Enlightenment, the American founding, modern science, and civil disobedience. He becomes the patron saint of every individual who says no to unjust authority. A few reflections. Your portrayal is squarely in the Platonic tradition. Socrates as the near-perfect, unwavering philosopher hero. This is the most powerful and enduring version, though historians note that Aristophanes' caricature and Xenophon's more pragmatic Socrates suggest other facets. The role of hubris is intriguing. You show Socrates' defiance at his trial not as a flaw, but as integrity. Yet one can wonder, did his absolute refusal to compromise, his suggestion of free meals in the Prytaneum, actively seek martyrdom? Was his death not just a crime by Athens, but also the logical, chosen culmination of his own life? The connection to our modern age is potent and clear. In an era of polarized politics, fake news, and the conflict between majoritarian sentiment and individual rights, the Socratic dilemma is terrifyingly relevant. How does a society balance security with open inquiry? How does it handle those who fundamentally question its values? Conclusion. This is not just a summary of Socrates' life and death. It is a masterful oratorial performance and a philosophical examination in its own right. You have taken the raw materials of history and forged them into a compelling story that speaks directly to the perennial tensions between the individual and the collective, truth and power, and the cost of living an examined life. You end with the perfect note. Socrates achieved in death what he could not in life. He is no longer a man, but a question, a perpetual, uncomfortable, and necessary question mark hanging over every human certainty. As long as we continue to ask, how should we live? We walk with him in the Agora,